Hey everybody, Ashton again from MuseThemes.com, back with you for another tutorial video. Today we're going to dive into our new info cards widget. This is a cool widget that gives us these info cards, as we can see here, which you can fill with any content that you like. They're great for pricing tables, product options, configurations, explanation of services or memberships, and much more. All the elements you see on the cards in the demo here are customizable, including the ribbon, icons, prices, etc., and you can set standard and featured cards individually. Let's switch over to Muse, where I've got the live demo project file here with the widget removed so that we can set it up from scratch and learn how to customize. Let's start by going into our library and dragging out the info cards widget onto the center of our page. Great. Now all we're going to see right now is this placeholder element which marks where your cards are going to appear, but all of the details are customizable inside the settings panel and will be viewable upon page preview. But before we dive into the panel, let's talk about spacing for a moment because this is important. You need to size this widget container large enough to contain the cards along with their shadow effects. Now this will vary depending on how much content you actually place in the cards and the size scale used. But in pretty much every case, you're going to need to extend the height of the widget container to be taller than it is by default here when you drop it onto the canvas. But we don't need to worry about this right now since we haven't added any of our content yet, but we are going to revisit this at the end to resize the widget once we've added everything in and checked it in a preview. One more thing regarding placement here, the top of the widget container is not matched with the top of the cards. Keep in mind that the widget has to account for the size scale settings applied to the cards, as well as the shadow effects. The edge of the shadow is actually the top of the widget. Now all this to say, you'll probably want to snug the widget up a little closer to the content above it than you might expect. Finally, let's jump into the settings panel here. Our content is broken down into individual cards here on top, and you can have up to 5. So for right now, I'm going to keep this selected at 3 so we can run through each one individually. And let's click into Card 1 content. Inside here, we've got a very large collection of elements that you can enable and configure. Starting here with card style, we have standard and featured. Clicking back to the live demo for 1 second, we can see that our center option here is an example of a featured card, making it larger and more visually prominent in the collection. So back to Muse. You can feature any of your cards for particular ones that you want to pop out on the page, and you'll also be able to customize the appearance and sizing of featured cards down below when we get to the styling sections. From there, we've got a bunch of options here for things we can decide if we want visible. We've got a ribbon that will show some text in the corner, an icon, plan name, price, pricing period, description, and then up to 6 different items that will be listed as part of this plan, all followed by a button that you can give a label and a link to. Very comprehensive. Now for this first plan, let's enable the icon. I've got the 3 bear icons saved on my drive here that were shown in the live demo, so let me navigate to those, and we'll load it in there. Perfect. We'll do a plan name as well, and we'll call it free. Price will be $0. We'll go ahead and enable period, and we'll say forever. I'll enable a description as well, but just to save time here, I'm just going to leave the lorem ipsum text for now. And let's do 3 plan items. We'll do limited access, 15 users, and best customer service. Great. And finally, we'll leave the button enabled here with the text, select this plan. Awesome. Let's do card number 2. We'll do featured on this one because it's in the center, and this one we can make it pop out a little bit more. And let's enable a ribbon this time that says popular. Great. We'll add another icon for this one as well. Plan name, we can do pro. Price will make $19, let's say, and we'll enable a period as well and call it monthly. We'll enable our description, and we'll do 3 items again. This time we'll do full access, 100 users, and best customer service. And finally, let's do our third one, another standard card style. Let's upload our 3rd icon. There we go. Plan name can be ultimate. Price will make this one $499, and price period will make annually. Description on there, and 3 items once again. We'll go unlimited access, unlimited users, and priority customer service. And our button can stay the same, just like before. Awesome. And whatever you do here, just remember one thing. Since these cards are a tall vertical format, it's best to keep the content somewhat to a minimum. I wouldn't go too crazy adding in long description text and lengthy option item sets. These cards will begin to look really tall really fast. Finally, let's jump down here to our styling sections. We have two separate ones here, one for regular card styling and one for featured card styling. Both sections offer the same styling options, but having them separate allows you to even further customize the styling of each card and allows you to really make those featured cards pop by giving them their own parameters. I'm not going to explore each of these in detail, many are self-explanatory, but I will mention card size scale. Now generally you want to use a little larger scale on the featured card, like 1 for standard and 1.15 or so for featured. If we expand the featured styling here, we can see it's already set to 1.2 by default. Go ahead and adjust that as desired. Rest of these options give you a bunch of styling control, from background colors, borders, fonts, ribbon styling, plan, price, and period styling, description styling, items, and of course, the button. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and give this a browser preview so we can take a look at the widget sizing and see how much that we need to increase it. Okay, there we go. Now, as discussed earlier, the widget container does need to be sized bigger so that you're not clipping the cards or their shadows like it is right now. And the best plan here is just to keep previewing until you've got the appropriate card size. If you extend the widget container way down the page too much, the cards will stretch that space in the browser, which means that you're going to have empty space at the bottom of your cards. So size the bottom so that you have just as much padding between the button and the bottom of the card as you want. Let me go back to Muse, and I'm just going to extend this a little bit more down here, the widget container, just so we have more room to work with. There we go. And let me preview this once again. There we go. And like I said, you're going to need to experiment until you get it just right, but once you do, it's going to look awesome. This is actually a handy way to work on the Muse canvas, since the widget container will represent the true size of the info card display even when in design mode. No need to worry too much about the width. The card width is automatic and isn't affected by changing the width of the widget container. More cards will obviously add more width. Now let's talk about mobile functionality for 1 second before we close out here. You only need one single instance of this widget for all breakpoints, and the container may be sized differently on each breakpoint. There is a mobile mode that kicks in with this widget and displays the cards arranged in a vertical column instead of a horizontal row, like on desktop and tablet sizes, because the cards, of course, would be way too narrow to be useful on mobile in that format. This transition to mobile layout happens automatically at 620 pixels wide. And the 620 pixel width is important to remember because the mobile layout will require a lot more height applied to the widget container. So it's actually advised to add a breakpoint right at 620 so that you don't have the transition happen in the middle of a breakpoint. You can also have the widget container have the normal height above 620 and a much taller widget container height required for the mobile layout below 620. And you can also, of course, always hide the widget on any breakpoints that you don't even want it visible. So I think that just about covers it. Have fun with our info cards widget. There's a bunch of uses you could find for this, and I think you'll find the widget will adapt and prove itself very useful and intuitive. Any issues, don't hesitate to reach out to us in support. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful day.